service. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So in the circulation service, that is the customer care service, we have provided our telephone number and email address. So in the circulation service, this is where we tell student, or maybe we teach student about the borrowing. So if you want to borrow a book in the library, you go and pick the book on the shelves. If you don't know where to locate the book, a librarian is available. They will always show you where to find the book. You pick the book, you come to the circulation service or maybe the customer care service with your school ID. So a student is only allowed to borrow a maximum number of 2 books in a period of 2 weeks. These 2 weeks are 14 days. So the first day is the day you borrow a book. So for example, if you borrow a book on 1st of July, you're expected to return that book on date 14th of July. And the maximum number a student can borrow is 2 books. This is at membership account. Your membership account cannot exceed 2 books. So you are supposed to borrow 2 books. If in case you borrow 2 books, you can return them if either after 2 hours, 3 hours, a day, 2 days, but the maximum numbers of days is 14 days. So if in case you borrow a book on 1st of July, you're expected to return that book on maybe 14th of July. There is a service we call renewal. So renewal is about adding more days. So for example, if a book, it is stamped, or maybe the librarian tells you you return this book on date 14. In date 14, you may pick these 4 numbers, cell phone numbers, you call, or maybe you write an SMS. If in case it's writing an SMS, you write your names, admission number, and phone number. Then you tell us, renew my book. So most of the times, usually tell student, kindly be punctual when it comes to returning of books. If a book is stamped date 1st of February, kindly return it before or maybe on that date. Important note to note, all books are issued by library staff. All library staff sit at circulation desk. Then the other thing, ensure to return the book borrowed on or before the due date. If a book is stamped, you return that book on date 14. Kindly return it on date 14 or before. Maybe for example, date 14 of February, return that book on date 14 or before date 14 of February. You are responsible for each and every book you borrow with your membership account. So if you borrow a book using your membership account, that book is your responsibility. The other thing, don't borrow a book for your friends or maybe a colleague or maybe somebody you know, maybe it's your friend or maybe your sister. Don't borrow that books for them because if they lose those books, you are the one to repay for those books. So usually encourage students to be at least honest. Kindly borrow books for your own purpose. We have motivation books. Those are entertainment books you can borrow for your maybe entertainment, but don't borrow books for others. The other thing, once you borrow a book, kindly return it on the due date or before the due date. The other thing, if you get late to return a book, there is a fine of 100 Kenya shilling. There is a fine of 50 shillings for each book. So for example, a book has been stamped on date 31st of January 2022. That is when you are expected to return that book. If you get late to return that book, maybe you return it on date 1st of February 2022, there is a fine of 50 shillings. If there were 2 books, that is 100 shillings. This amount recurs. If you get late for 3 days, that is 150 shillings for 1 book. If there are 2 books, that is 300. So we encourage students to be punctual and also to be very careful with the due dates. You return books before the due dates. I want to talk about the reference and referral services. For those of you who are doing ZU courses or maybe courses examined by ZU, we help you to write your projects. We have the anti-plagiarism software. We also help you in current awareness. We teach you about our e-resources, how to use our e-resources. So when it comes to our ZTech University e-library, so as you can see in your screen, I talked about 2 types of library. We have a physical library and virtual library. TRC and Pioneer are physical library. We have e-library. It's made up of databases. These databases have e-resources. So we usually teach students how to use our e-resources. We usually teach students how to use the e-resources in the e-library. We have various services. The other service we have is electronic information service. We have a digital library that's made up of computers, and these computers have internet. So some of you can able to access our e-library and you can able to use maybe to access ZDS, or maybe to attend the digital classes, or maybe to do your private study, maybe to send emails, or maybe to access your emails, or maybe to study your various online classes. We have Wi-Fi, we have multimedia gadgets. We don't allow students to make noise in the library, so especially to pick phone calls, or maybe if you are attending an online class, we usually don't allow students to listen to their classes with loud volumes. We usually provide multimedia gadgets like headphones. So if you don't have earphones or headphones and you want to attend an online class, kindly come to the circulation desk, request for headphones, we will share our headphones. The other thing is about the reading space. Reading space, you have ample reading space. In Pioneer, you can able to accommodate 100 students. In TRC, you can able to accommodate about 600 students. The other thing is about the luggage bay. Luggage bay. We don't allow students to enter in the library with bags, so we usually provide a luggage bay or a place where the student can keep their bags temporarily in the time they are using the library, or maybe using a computer lab. So don't enter in the library with your bags. Kindly leave your bags on the luggage bay. The other thing I want to talk about, the other thing I want to teach you about is our library rules. We have various rules. So the first rule, you must produce your university ID to access the university library. So you must provide your school ID. As I discussed earlier, I said that the university libraries are only open to both students and staff. So you must produce your university ID to prove that you are a student. For those of you who are new student and your school ID have not yet been processed, kindly you can request to access the library through librarian. For those in TRC, you can come and see the librarian on the circulation desk. For those who in Pioneer, kindly come and see the librarian in the circulation desk. They will allow you to access the library since as you wait for your school ID to be processed. The other thing, don't make noise in the library. Silence must be observed in the library. Don't pick phone calls in the library. We don't allow phone calls to be picked in the library. Don't come with any form of food in the library. Don't eat and drink in the library. We don't allow food in the library, including water. Kindly leave water in your bag. Then leave your bag in the luggage bay. The other thing, no discussion in the library, especially in Pioneer. We allow discussion in second floor in TRC library. So in TRC library, they have a discussion area and it is in second floor. In the ground floor and first floor, no making noise, no picking phone calls. It's a private study area. We don't allow any form of discussion. The other thing, sleeping in the library is not allowed. Don't come in any form of ink or liquid in the library. Briefcases and bags and coats and oversized clothing are not allowed in the library. We usually leave them in the luggage bay. Once you pick a book from the library shelf and you make contribution to assign, kindly mute, kindly mute. Kuna hawa watu wamezunguka huku, your excellency, kindly mute, kindly mute, kindly mute. Thank you very much. So I was saying that we don't allow any bottles of ink and any other liquid in the library. Briefcases, bags, and coats and oversized clothing are left in the luggage bay, including water. If you have water, kindly leave your water in the bag, then leave your bag in the luggage bay. If you pick a book from the shelf and you are using that book to do assignment or maybe to read the book, once you use the book on the tables, leave it on the tables. Don't shelve it back on the shelf. Library staff will come and pick the books from the tables and shelve them back. The other thing, don't steal our books. Majority of our books are very affordable. You can buy your own copy. Once you buy your own copy, you can come with it in the library and you can able to read it in the library. Don't reserve seats. During this COVID-19 period, we're encouraging students not to reserve seats, especially if the library is full. Kindly be patient. You can provide a space, more space for the library users. The other thing, as you are leaving the libraries, you may be frisked or may be asked to show what you are living with in the library. So for some of you want to register for e-library, we are encouraging students not to share their login details. We are encouraging students not to share their login details because once you register for e-library, it is ZTech University have provided you with the logins and the login credentials. So don't share the login credentials with any other person. If it is your fellow students, kindly encourage them to register for e-library, since registration is free. So the other thing I want to discuss with you is how to register for e-library. So I want to show you how to register for e-library. So there is a procedure to register for e-library. I hope all of you have email addresses, that is Zitech University email addresses. If you don't have Zitech University email address, kindly, if you don't have an email address, kindly use your Gmail to register with or to send your credential details. As you can see through your screen, so as you can see through your screen, anybody with a question, you can post it in the public chat. I can able to answer your questions. So as you can see through your screen, you are required to send these details. So for those of you who have email address, as you can see through the screen, to register to access our e-library, kindly send these details. The first details you have to send to is to e-library@zitech.ac.ke. So as you can see here, for the example I've shared here, this is an example. You have to state your names, admission number, then you state your phone numbers. Kindly state your name, admission number, phone number. Some of you can already said these details right now. I'll register you for e-library. So what you need to do is when you are sending the email, you have to send it. You have to use your student email address. Use your student email address, and this student email address usually. Kindly mute. You have to set e-library. So you have to send your details to e-library@zitech.ac.ke. These details have to be your names, admission number, and your phone number. So for you to access our e-library, you have to search for Zitech University through Chrome. Then once you select the first option, as you can see here from the example I've shared through the screen, you can see I searched for, using Chrome, Google Chrome, Zitech University Library. Then these are the results. These are the results, as you can see. The first example here is Zitech University Library with the home. This is a link that leads us to our website. It leads to Zitech University website. So as you can see through the screen, I want to show you the Zitech University website. The second link, the one that have remote X, the remote X is for Zitech University e-library. We have Zitech University website and Zitech University e-library. So you can see through your screen, this is Zitech University Library website. And the first thing you see is home, then about the library, then OPAC. This is what I was talking about, OPAC. This is a service that helps students to access. If you click on OPAC, it leads you into a new page. And in this new page, you can able to see Koha, or library management system, that helps students to locate books. So the other link on Remotex leads you to if you select this link, the one that's library.zitech.remotex.xyz, it leads you to e-library. And in our e-library, you can see through your screen, it is written, welcome to Zitech University. library, connecting patrons to library e-resources. Once you register, that is, once you use your student email address to send your names, admission number, and phone number, I'll register you and send you a link that will create a password. Once you create a password, you go back to Chrome, Google Chrome, you search for Zetech University Library. After searching for Zetech University Library, you click on the option that has library remotex.zetech.ac.ke. It leads you to this page, and in this page, as you can see, you must have an email address, and you must type your email address, that is student email address. So as I said earlier, once you create a password, so the first thing to do to register for eRebra is set your names, admission number, and phone number. Then you must use your student email address, the one that ends at zetech.ac.ke. I'll register you and create for you a membership account. With that membership account, you receive a link from Remotex that will help you to create a password. Once you create a password, you go back to Google Chrome, you type for Zetech University Library. Then once you search, you select the link that has Remotex option, the one that's written library zetech.remotex.xyz. It leads you to Zetech University e-library website. In the e-library website, for you to log in, you have to type your student email address, the correct student email address, then the password you created. If you cannot be able to remember the password you created, you select the forgot password link. It resets, it opens in a new page in where you have to reset the password. Once you type in your email address, within 3 seconds, you usually receive an email from Remotex that helps you to reset password. Then we come back to your Zetech University e-library website, you type in your email address and the password that you have reset. If in case you cannot able to use the e-resources or maybe you need more guidance how to use our e-resource, kindly you can either contact us, as you can see through your screen, we have shared our phone numbers and our email address. You can either call us, SMS us, send an email to library@zetech or maybe to librarian@zetech, requesting to be guided more about how to use a certain database or maybe how to use a certain e-resource. So for example here, I'm a member of Zetech University e-library. So this is my email. This is my email, rachel.irongo@zetech.ac.ke. I've already have a password. I already have a password. I log in. So I hope I can able to see the screen. Okay, it is letting me the password is not recognizable. You type in the correct password. So anybody with a question, you can ask the question through the public chat. So can you kindly mute? Kindly mute. So I can see Esther. Esther Kiara is asking, must I have a school ID? No, I have said no. If your school ID is not yet processed, you can come and speak to the librarian. They will just allow you to access our library as the school ID is being processed. I can see somebody like Wanga. For how long can you stay with a book after borrowing? So if in case you have borrowed a book as a student, it's only 14 days. So if you borrow a book on date 1st of February, you expect to return that book on maybe date 15 or maybe date 14 of July. So that date is stamped at the receipt behind each and every book in our library. And that receipt has a phone number and an email address. So for Wanga Wire, you only stay with the book for 14 days, and the day you have borrowed is the first day. So if it is the 1st of February, that's the first day. Then kindly check the due date on the due date slip. The slip is on the back of the book, and it's usually being stamped the date you are supposed to return the book. So as you can see through your screen, I've managed to log into my e-library account. You can see at the top, it is written Zetech University Library. It is written Zetech University Library. The first thing you see, it's home, then e-resources, then tutorials, feedback, user profile. To access As you can see, I've shared the screen again. I hope you can able to see. So I can see Akinyi is asking, what happens if a book is not returned at the right time? As I've said earlier, if you get ready to return a book, maybe it was stamped on date 31st January 2022, and you get late, maybe you bring it maybe on date 1st February 2022. Each book have a fine of 50 shillings per day. So if in case you get late for 3 days and it was one book, that is 150. If it is two books, that is 300. So each book 150 shillings each day. If it is two book, 100 Kenya shillings each day. If you get late 3 days, that is 300 for two books. If it is one day, it's 150. As you can see through the screen here, the first thing you see is home, then e-resources. You have to select databases for you to access the data, for you to able to view the databases. As you can see on this far end part, it is written 23 databases. Within the course of time, they'll increase a number. The first thing you see here, it's a database called American Institute of Physics. That is purely physics database, annual review, BAUBA. This is a very special database because it's made up only with ebooks. The most common database used by students, it is called Emerald Insight. And to view any of these database, the 23 databases, you have to click on view details. Once we click on view details, as you can see through the screen, there is an image here. And in this image, you click on the double zeros so that you can able to view the database. So anybody else with a question? Okay. Esther is asking, what happens when a person loses a borrowed book? So you usually report to the librarian will help you. So mostly we give student time to look for the book or maybe to replace the book. So once you lose a book, don't wait until the due date, because you may lose a book, then you wait until the due date and the book starts accumulating fine. Don't wait until the due date for the book to accumulate fine. Report once the book is stolen, then as a librarian we will help you. So as you can see through your screen, this is the Emerald Insight, as you can see. As you can see on the left-hand side, has been provided by Zetech University. The database name is Emerald Insight, and then it is written Discover Journals, Books, and Case Studies. It's just like the Chrome. You just type in what you are looking for. So for example, I want to look for, I'm a student in food and beverage and I'm looking for spices. So you just type the correct spelling, spices, then you just search. You just search. As you can see from the results here, There are about 2,000 results. 2,000 results. For you to access those results under PDF, those in the PDF format, you click on only open access as on the right hand side. In the option of access, you click on only open access. Then afterwards, the results turns to be that 7. As you can see, the results have reduced to that 7. So in these results, all the articles, or maybe the, as you can see, the articles are either in form of PDF, and you can able to download them in your computer. As you can see here, it is also written open access. So if you want to download an article, you usually come to the title of the article. For example, this one, adoption of the concept of person-centered care into discourse in European systematic literature review. You usually come to the title of the article. Once it is underlined, you click, it opens in a new page. And in this new page, you can able to see the authors. Here they are the authors. So this is that is the title of the article. These are the authors or the contributors of the work. If you want to access the article in form of PDF, you click on PDF. It opens in form of PDF. And in this PDF, you can able to download it in your own computer. So do you have anybody with a question? As you can see here, this is the article in form of PDF. You have to select the download option for it to save in your own computer. So once it's downloaded, you save it in your own computer. So do you have any question? I can see somebody have a question. Can someone got the library to do his homework, but he or she have no account with the library? Yes, the library is open to all students, be it you are an active member. An active member is that student to borrow books. It is open to both active and inactive students. So you can use our library without borrowing books. You can come to our library to read. You can come to our library to attend a class. You can come to our library to attend a group discussion. You can come to our library maybe to photocopy, to pick a syllabus, to photocopy some few pages. You can come to our library to pick a book so that you can able choose it to do assignment without borrowing books. So the library is open to all students, be it you are an active member or not an active member. Anybody else with a question? So I want you to set your details right now, e-library. So you open your email address. In the option of 2, you set your, in the option of 2, that is in your emails, your student emails. In the option of 2, you said, you write e-library, those that is in small letters, e-library at ztech.ac.ke. You said you type e-library at ztech.ac.ke. Then the subject should be e-library account. As you can see through your chats, I'm typing in your chats, kindly view your chats. You open your email, that is the student email. In the option of 2, you type e-library at ztech.ac.ke. The subject should be e-library account. Then at the compost email, you type in your names, admission number, then your phone number. I'll create for you an account that is e-library account, and you can start to use our databases. So I can see somebody is asking a question, are all books that are available in the physical library available to e-library? No. Some of the books in the e-library are not available in our physical library. Some of the books in our physical library, especially the TRC library, some of them are not in our e-library. So in case of our e-library, we are very rich in books in business and maybe hospitality. But some of the books in business in our physical library cannot be found in e-library. So there are those books that are in e-library and some are not in our physical library. There are those books in physical library and are not in our e-library. Anybody else? So send your details right now. I will be busy registering you. Anybody else? So I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Mr. David Miner. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to train and to have some time with the students, and also to train them for both the library about our libraries, maybe ZTech, and especially more in our e-library. to send.
Thank you, Madam Rachel. I
Okay.
think it was good, especially for our past, these are a past, we can call them first year students, and they require that knowledge,
Okay.
especially during the use of library. There's a topic that we are going to cover towards the end of the lesson, not towards the end of this particular course, and we are going to look at library skills. And
Oh,
particularly, we are going to look at the sections of the library and the OPAC, we call it what? Is it we have a section in the library called Almanac. Not the Almanac, but there are various sections of the library that we are going to check towards the end of this course. But
oh,
I take this opportunity to thank you and also to thank those who have attended. I've sent you the name of the student, and besides those names, they are what we call their email addresses,
okay.
and there are 90 students. I don't know where
Okay.
40 are, but there are 90 students. Thank you so much. If you have any question or you have a section whereby maybe we need you to interact with the students, especially that section, kama nitashindwa nitakukaribisha to take through the various sections of the library, the short loan section, the,
Okay.
the you know those ones, the magazine section, how do we call them, how do you deal with such things? Because people might think the short loan section is whereby you're given money or something of the sort. No, it's all about books and how long you stay with a book that is borrowed from the short loan section and so on and so forth. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Hi. Now we come back to our class. Thank you for so much for those people who have attended. The early bird catches the worm. The Englishman said, the early bird catches the worm. So when you're told to join a class early, and you're told that a class starts exactly at 2, and you're joining at 2:49, 2:50, just know that others will be so much ahead. Like, for example, that was Madam Rachel. She is in the Pioneer Library, and she has taken us through the nitty-gritties of the library, what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do in the library, and so on and so forth. But wale wameingia late, I think wamesikia tu tukitoka tu. That should be a lesson to you that whenever we have said that a class should start at 2, kindly make an attempt to attend that particular class exactly the time that you have been told to attend. Now, today, I'm not saying you're not going to learn today. Today, we must learn. Bearing in mind, last week we were going through a lot of technical problems, but at least I made it through. I made it through. Now, today we are going to look at a topic, and this is topic 3. Topic 3, we are going to talk about, last week we were talking about the verbal communication. Today we are going to tackle what is called the nonverbal communication. Today we are going to look at nonverbal communication. Very important. So allow me to share my screen so that we can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to go very fast, bearing in mind that much of our time is gone. I will not say that it has been wasted. And just sometimes when you communicate, eh, ulikuwa umeita guest owner aongeleshe wanafunzi akachukua 30 minutes. Whenever you communication, the choice of word that you choose is very important. Remember verbal communication, the choice of word. Like, for example, I cannot say much of our time has been wasted. No, much of our time has been invested properly by learning what we call the nitty-gritties of the library, what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. When you need a book, what do you do for you to be a member of the library? What are you supposed to have? And what are you supposed to do? Etc., etc. So much of our time is gone, but we will try as much as possible to go as quick as possible so that at least we kill two birds with one stone. Now, when you talk about nonverbal communication as defined, because I've already shared my screen there. Nonverbal communication is any form of information that is communicated without using words. You don't use words. You don't use words. But verbal is the opposite of verbal communication. When you communicate to someone by use of words, that is verbal communication. So nonverbal is the opposite. You communicate without using words. And it is often referred to as the silent language. It is often referred to as the silent language. And some scholars even say that 90% of our communication is nonverbal. 90% of the way we communicate is nonverbal. So nonverbal communication is the information we communicate without using words. And a lot of nonverbal communication is usually unintentional. You do it unintentionally. For example, you might be explaining something and then you find yourself raising your voice, or maybe raising your hand, or maybe walking in a certain way. Some of the communication that we use, especially nonverbal, is usually unintentional. People are not even aware that they are sending these messages. They are not aware. Like where you are seated, you don't even know the kind of message that you are sending. Like there was a time I was seated and I was learning when I was a student like you. But this time around, I was doing my bachelor's degree. I was around in second year and I was reading my books. I was seated somewhere in the house. I had actually set a place where I would be. I was actually taking my what we call my studies. And let me tell you one thing. Uh, Somebody came telling me, I like the way you are seated when you are learning. You are seated so well, so composed, and you are so focused when you are learning. You see, this one, I could not even tell, but the other person can tell me. The same case with you. When you are seated somewhere and you are learning, you are in the library, you are seated. The way you are seated can actually tell us this person is ready to learn, this person has come to play around, or this person is very tired. He has got no interest in learning. So, in other words, you're saying that the nonverbal communication, sometimes we communicate nonverbally, unintentionally. So there is also what we call the difference between verbal and nonverbal communication. And we are going to look at the 7 differences between verbal and nonverbal communication. Verbal and nonverbal communication, they differ in 7 ways. And in these 7 ways, we are looking at the environment, we are looking at feedback, we will be looking at continuity, we'll be looking at channel, control, structure, and acquisition. For example, the environment. So unlike much of the verbal communication, non-verbal communication can take place anywhere. Because remember we said that non-verbal communication is unintentional. You never know. Sometimes you never know you are communicating non-verbally. The clothes that you wear, the way you take, like the other day I had a class with, I think, the certificate students. Tomorrow I also have a class, a physical class. And I told them, you have been invited for an interview. Most of the interview is at all only that person is making noise. Mimi nitakutoa nje na sitakuwa na apology za kumake. If you cannot keep your microphone off, I will just kick you out, and the next time you'll be joining this class is the next week, a day like today. And I will not have any apologies to make because this is the wastage of time. Sasa tunakwambia put off your microphone. We are wasting our time telling you that. Geshohe, Ngoge, and Slovita, your microphone are on, and Waidera Maderi. Hizo microphones ziko on. Usipo switch them off, I'll kick you out. If you don't put those microphones off, I'll kick you out. So make sure that you put those off those microphones. So let me continue from where I had already started. Let me share my screen again. Now we are saying that non-verbal communication, when you talk about the environment, much of it can take place when we are not around for people to get an impression of us. For example, we are told our homes, they tell us much about ourselves. Our home, vile nyumba yako imepangwa, vile inakaa, inaweza kusema this person is organized, this person does not care, this person is like this person is like that. The pictures and posters on the wall, the type of music that you listen to, the type of even ringtones that you put in your phone. They tell us what kind of a person you are. The ringback tone. Sasa tunakupigia simu tunasikia music fulani inaimba before uchukue simu. They tell us the kind of people we are. So that's why you're told be very cautious of how people see you, because they can get information about you. The information might be negative about you, but now it is because of the things that we interact with. Also, number two, we have feedback, that we give a lot of non-verbal feedback. We show interest in someone by smiling. We give a lot of non-verbal feedback. For example, when you like someone, you find yourself smiling at them. Sometimes you find yourself winking at them. There is also facial expression and body posture that shows most of our emotional responses. Number three is what we call continuity. That unlike non-verbal communication, which begins and ends with one, verbal unlike non-verbal communication, no, unlike verbal communication. I think there is a mistake here. Unlike verbal communication. Verbal communication starts with what we call word and it ends with word. Just like Madam Rachel was here. She started the class with word and she has finished the class with word. Now, non-verbal communication does not end with word. It is just continuous. Then we also have channels. Non-verbal communication uses more than one channel. When you talk about non-verbal, it uses more than one channel. As you cheer for your favorite team, you yell, you jump up and down when they score. Here, you are using channels of sight, you are using channels of sound, you are using channels of maybe non-verbal channels like gestures and so on and so forth. Then we also have control, unlike verbal communication, where we choose our words. We have very little control of our non-verbal communication. Our emotional responses is one. So non-verbal behavior is where, for example, we have least amount of control. We have the least amount of control when it comes to non-verbal behavior. Like, for example, when you are late at work, you will find yourself running. You'll find yourself jogging. And people might laugh at you the way you are jogging. You'll even start sweating because you are late. Something of the sort. The next difference is structure. When you talk about nonverbal communication, it follows no specific sequence. Nonverbal communication follows no specific sequence. For example, before we were rudely interrupted just some few minutes ago, I was telling you that I have a class, the certificate in media studies, and we were talking about you have been called for an interview. And most interviews are usually done in the morning, whereby you arrive at a time maybe they are about to take tea. So the tea is brought in the boardroom. And then you are asked, young man, what would you want to take, water or chocolate or tea or coffee? And then a problem might come when you say coffee. And the way you are sipping the coffee, you are producing that sound. Or maybe you are bending down to take the coffee, which is a very bad sign. Unapewa chai alafu wewe una sip kwa vile ni moto, something like that. You produce a sound like that. That is very bad. And that actually communicates very negatively about you. Some will even ask for water. Some will even ask for tea. And some will say, I'm okay. And so on and so forth. So non-verbal communication follows no specific sequence because it occurs unconsciously. That's why when you're called for an interview, the CV might speak very nicely about you. Very good choice of words as far as your CV is concerned. Very good quality. But now they call you for an interview, which is a face-to-face. They want to see this kind of a person who has got a very good CV to see whether the CV goes hand in hand with the person. Alafu tunapata ya kwamba wewe ni mtu hobela hobela, hohe hahe. Ukifika pale unasema niwekee chai, coffee, you are putting like 3-4 spoons of tea in the coffee, then you are sipping as though you are taking uji, or in the process of taking this tea of yours, you spill a lot of tea on yourself and on the table. Something of the sort. Then this shows that you're not organized. Or maybe it can communicate negatively about you. And even though your CV looks nice, these people might not even be interested to hire somebody of the sort. So it lacks formal structure as opposed to verbal communication that follows the rules of grammar. And lastly, we are looking at acquisition. That a lot of formal rules for verbal communication like grammar are taught in a structure or formal environment, like in school. You go to school to learn things like grammar, you to work on your eloquency, to work on your speech, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to nonverbal communication, it is by imitating others and not in any other formal setting. The way you use your hands, the way you say goodbye, the way you say time is up, these things you did not learn them in school. You learned them in the environment that you are brought up in. So those are the differences between verbal and nonverbal communication. Then what is the importance then of nonverbal communication? Number one, it's complementing. Nonverbal communication is used for complementing. Complementing what? Complementing the verbal message. For example, you want to show that this point is a very important point. You stand stiff and you stand confident and you speak to show that this point is very important. Even the tone of voice, the way you speak, you are speaking with a lot of authority to show that that point is very important. So nonverbal communication or nonverbal cues complement the verbal message. Like for example, those who watch football, and maybe a match between Manchester United and Chelsea, you'll see the coach on the other side shouting and showing a letter T. Time is up, time up, to complement or to show the seriousness of time. Then we also have regulating. It is the non-verbal communication. They can also be used to regulate the verbal communication. For example, your boss can start arranging papers on his desk to show that it is the end of conversation. Maybe you have come to see me in my office there at TRC, and maybe you have some issues that you want to tell me or that you need to communicate. And then we have talked for about maybe 20 minutes. And then you see me taking my tablet or taking my pen, my mark pen, and taking my eraser. That is the duster. My friend, you will know that time is up. I'm actually telling you my time with you is up. I have something else to do. Then they're also used for substituting. So nonverbal behavior can also replace verbal communication. For example, you are waving, you are on the other side of the road. You have seen your friend on the other side of Thika Superhighway. Instead of crossing the road, which, for example, you might also be ran off by a vehicle, you just wave. You just wave. So they can be used for substituting. Then assenting, they can also be used for assenting. It can also be used to assent, emphasize, or to reinforce verbal messages. When you use nonverbal cues, we can use them to reinforce a certain point. So whenever we communicate something important, we are likely to assent it with nonverbal cues. For example, a lecturer may use a strong and firm voice when asking the class not to be late for the next lecture. I'm also using a firm voice for those people who are using microphones and I'm in class. And I've actually said those people who are using their microphone and I'm in class, I will send you or I will kick you out. And the next time you'll be joining a class will be next week, a day like today. You can even read the voice, the tone of voice. Eh? Very authoritative. That is it. And if there is a question, I'll go to characteristics of nonverbal communication. Any question? Remember, we have looked at the differences between nonverbal communication and verbal communication. We've also looked at the importance of nonverbal communication and therefore, and then now we are looking at the characteristics of the nonverbal communication. So number one characteristics of nonverbal communication is that you may not always intend to send nonverbal messages, but everything about your appearance, every moment, every facial expression, every nuance of your voice has the potential to convey the meaning. So in other words, nonverbal behavior always has a communication value. That's why these people call for you for the interview to see huyu mtu ambaye ametutumia hii CV ambaye inakaa vizuri hivi, very nice, very good. Let's call him for an interview. We hear from the horse's mouth, and then you appear in an interview wearing an oversized coat, wearing an oversized pair of shoes. You look like you are shaggy. It's like you don't. I mean, you never came across some petroleum jelly or something like that or lotion, and then they wonder, is this TV for this guy? And then you are sipping tea as though you are taking uji and so on and so forth. So in other words, we are saying that nonverbal behavior always has a communication value. Always has a communication value. The next point, nonverbal communication is very powerful. Nonverbal communication is usually very powerful. For example, you have you have attended a class, a physical class, and for example, you attended a class and you are late for that particular class. And then the lecturer tells you, get out of my class, you are late. And then you walk out in protest and then banging the door. Even if you didn't have any intention, just by banging the door, it shows a very powerful nonverbal communication. It shows how angry you are, how rude you are, how unapologetic you are, and how it shows so negative things about you. It even shows or predicts the kind of family that you come from. So we form impression of others mostly from our nonverbal observation, their physical appearance, their behavior, like when you bang the door because you have been told or you have been requested to get out of class because you come late. That is very bad. You're not supposed to bang the door because it shows a very rude character of you. One of these impressions are formed and they influence our subsequent judgment. We can judge you through your nonverbal communication. We can judge you through your nonverbal communication. We also have nonverbal behavior is a big one. Sometimes, while nonverbal communication can create powerful impressions, the messages it conveys are usually, sometimes they are a big one. For example, if a student yawns in class, does it mean he's feeling hungry? It might mean he's very tired. It might also mean that he's very bored. But somebody might take it this way. This student did not eat supper at night or did not take breakfast in the morning. That is a big one. Maybe the student did not sleep the whole night. Maybe he was revising. or maybe the student uh, took a lot of time. I mean, maybe he was jogging or he did some exercise before attending a class. So we might end up misjudging a student when he yawns in class. So sometimes nonverbal behaviors are very ambiguous. Number four, nonverbal communication primarily expresses attitude. Yeah, most of the time you realize that nonverbal communication, it expresses an attitude. So most nonverbal behaviors is used to express liking, used to express disagreement, amusement, and so on. It can easily express feelings and attitude, but it won't be effective when expressing thoughts. So nonverbal communication sometimes cannot be used to express thoughts, but it can be used to express feelings, emotion. It can do that. Thoughts are expressed in speech. That's why they say in the Bible, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So in other words, we are saying thoughts are expressed in speech and in writing. So this means that nonverbal behavior will imply how the speaker feels about he about what he is saying. Number five, we are saying that much of nonverbal behavior is culture bound. Much of nonverbal behavior is usually culture bound. You're going to realize that certain types of nonverbal behavior seem to be universal. For example, there is a strong agreement about which facial expression represents happiness. eh? Even the emojis that you use on WhatsApp, we have some that represent happiness. There are some facial expressions that represent fear, surprise, anger, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, many nonverbal expressions do change from one culture to the other. So you're supposed to consider the rule of proper space between two speakers. So in many African culture, you're going to realize that distance may be larger in Western countries as opposed to many African countries. For example, you realize that in other cultures, this one you're going to bear with me or to bear me witness, that you're not even supposed to look at the old when they are talking to you because it will show that you are disrespecting them. In some culture, you are supposed to bow down when you see an old person, something of the sort. So these are nonverbal behavior that shows respect. In some culture, there is a manner in which you're supposed to sit. Like you're told ladies should not cross their legs. Eh? They should sit upright with their legs closed, something of the sort. In some culture or in American culture, it may mean different things. Like if an American crosses his legs, it shows that he's very comfortable where he is. Amekalia kiti lakini miguu yake it is closed. It simply means that that person is very comfortable. In an interview in an African culture, it shows that you are conservative. There are some things you don't want to say. Even when you cross your hand in an interview, it shows that you are conservative. But in an American culture, it shows that you are comfortable or maybe you are feeling cold. That's why you're crossing your hands and so on and so forth. So nonverbal behavior is culture bound. It all depends with the culture. Then therefore we have the types of nonverbal communication. We are going to look at a few. Number one, we have the type of nonverbal communication. We have paralanguage. And when you talk about paralanguage, it is the way we say things. For example, when your father calls, or when your father calls his son in another room, from the tone of voice that he uses, the child can gauge whether the call is urgent, whether he should take some few time or some few minutes playing the game, and something of the sort. You can even from the tone of voice, you can tell your father is angry when he calls. That is called the paralanguage. So paralanguage includes such vocal characteristics as the speed of speaking, the highness, or lowness of voice. The volume, whether it's loud, and the quality, whether it is pleasing or unpleasant sound. Under what we call paralanguage, we also have the rate. The speed at which one speaks can have an effect on the way a message is received. There are people who speak very fast. There are people who speak very fast to an extent that you cannot understand what they are saying. The pitch refers to highness, how high or how low your voice is. Like when you are serious, you speak with a very high pitch. When you are, maybe for example, when you have woken up or you are about to wake up and somebody is calling you and you're sleeping, you might speak in a very low pitch. I mean, you can use very low pitch. No wonder when sometimes you call someone on the phone, you ask, kwani bado unalala? How did you know? It's because of the pitch that he's using. Also volume. They're also called vocal fillers and quality. I'm not going to look at all of them. Then apart from paralanguage, we have body movement. We are going to read on regulators, displays of feelings, and illustrators. Then apart from that, we also have clothing. Number 3 is clothing. How you dress. How you dress. Because clothing gives such a strong and immediate impression of its wearer. That's why we say, dress how you want to be addressed. If you want to be addressed as sir, madam, dress the way you want to be addressed. If you want people to start saying, or start saying hi, mambo, niaje, if you want people to say hi, just like that, just dress the way you want to be addressed. It is enormously important to nonverbal communication. So clothing projects a message, and by choosing a particular clothing, you are communicating a different message. Like for example, you are told that clothing falls into 4 categories. For example, uniform, occasional dress, occupational dress, leisure clothing, costume. Each of these categories, they convey a somewhat different meaning. For example, a uniform is the most specialized form of clothing, and it identifies the wearer in a particular organization. We also have occupational dress, and occupational dress is clothing that employees are expected to wear, but it is not as precise as a uniform. Occupational clothing indicates the performance of a particular kind of job. Like for example, if you go to the engineering lab, you will see them wearing dust coats. There is also what we call leisure clothing, but this generation of our today, they don't know what leisure clothing is. Unamuita mtu interview, anakuja kama amevaa nguo imechorwa LV, LV kila mahali, imechorwa New York City, and so on and so forth. Those ones, we can use them as leisure clothing. They are used when work is over, because this kind of clothing is left to choice. We also have costumes, especially when you go to swimming, you wear costumes. When you go to dancing, there are some costumes. Some traditional dances requires that you wear some costumes. Also, number 4, we have space and distance. Space is an nonverbal communication. It communicates about you. Like, for example, we have intimate distance. The way you sit with your child, or the way you sit with your wife, or your girlfriend, is totally different from the way you sit with your boss in the office. The distance is different. The distance is also different when you are talking to a political leader, like maybe, for example, the deputy president. The way he's speaking, right now, it's the year of campaign. You can see the distance between the deputy president and his followers. It's a huge distance. Also, we also have personal distance, and this is the distance that we keep most often when we are in a casual or personal conversation. It is close enough to see the other person's reaction, but far enough away not to encroach on intimate distance. If we move closer than 18 inches, the person will probably back away. Personal distance. When you're talking to a lecturer, you come to my office. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to maintain the personal distance. But if you come closer, you will find me making a step backward because I don't want you to come so close to me. If we move further away than 4 inches, it will be difficult to carry out our conversation. Then we also have social distance. I hope kila mtu anajua social distance means. It is the distance that makes it possible for each worker to concentrate on their work and to use the telephone without affecting the other the other person in the office. That is the social distance. COVID-19 imetufunza social distance ni kuhusu nini. Then we also have public distance. Public distance is, like for example, a political leader attending to his gathering. Even karaoke, your microphone is on. Like whenever you see these politicians, the distance that they maintain between them and the gathering or the follower is what we call the social distance. Number 5, then we have touch. Touch communicates the way you touch one another, the way you hold your friend, the kissing and the hugging. This one communicates a lot about someone. There is a hugging that you can hug someone, and people will actually tell this our friend. And there is that hugging that you give a person, and people can say these ones are more than friends. Either they are homosexual or they are a man and a wife, and so on and so forth. Even those ones touch, it communicates. Like for example, when a coach or when there is what we call these people who like football. Whenever we are doing what is substitution, we are substituting a player with another. The one that is coming from the field, you'll see the coach tapping him at the back, telling him what? Tapping at the back simply means that you've done a good job. That you have done a good job. And so on and so forth. So again, we have time. Time also is another non-verbal communication. There is time for everything. There is time for everything. So time communicates. Time communicates. Like for example, in the evening, those who are coming from town, you go to the stage, you will find that so many people are in the stage. They are boarding their matatu back home. In the morning, during, for example, at 1 o'clock, very few people are in the stage. And the people you find on the street are the hawkers. That one can tell you that it is time. People are in the offices, they are working, and so on and so forth. So time is another factor that communicates. It's an nonverbal factor of communication. So then how do you improve your nonverbal communication? Because our nonverbal communication or our nonverbal behavior is so tied in with our social and cultural conditions, it is not very easy to change. Fortunately, it's not easy to change your nonverbal behavior. You cannot just change your nonverbal behavior. You have to train yourself. Like for example, you've just gotten a job in a very big office. You are now our new MCA. You are now our new MP or our new governor. You have never been a governor before. You have never even had been a leader before. You now start changing the way you speak to people, the way you wave at people, the way you even maybe you are used to eating using hands. Because from now henceforth, or from that time henceforth, you now start using forks, cutlery, and so on and so forth. So you have to change even the way you dress, the way you even shave. For example, you are a Rasta man. Now you are a governor. Hautakuwa unaenda kwa inaitwa namna gani bunge ukiwa na hizo rasta. You have to look for a way that you're going njia ambao utakuwa unaishi. People are not going to take you serious. For example, somebody like Mike Sonko, people were not taking him serious because of he has bling everywhere. Look at his head, imechorwa, imeandikwa vitu fulani, and ilifika mahali akaacha kufanya hivi. Nywele yake ikakuwa safi, hata ukiangalia nywele yake hadi sasa kichwa ni safi, and so on and so forth. He even started dressing suits because now for you to be taken seriously, then you have to be very serious, even in your look, the kind of people that you are working with, and so on and so forth. Apart from that, we should not be concerned with nonverbal communication that distracts from what we want to say or that contradicts our verbal message. If this is what you are saying, don't contradict your nonverbal with what you are saying with your verbal. Ninasema chai imeisha, ama ninasema hivi. It should not contradict with your nonverbal, and so on and so forth. And that marks the end of today's class, unless there is a question. Any question? I'm moving very fast so that at least we can have enough time to do the activity. Any question? Any question on nonverbal communication? Any question? Jerry Nyokabi, any question? We do not have any question. If there is no question, then this is what we are going to do. If there is no question, this is what we are going to do today. Let me go back to the first of all, we start with what we call the attendance. The attendance, the password for the attendance register. Okay, there is what we call a group, a WhatsApp group. There is a WhatsApp group that has been formed, that I formed last week. And I want to share, I don't know that someone can share the what. Someone can share the link so that others can join the WhatsApp. There is a lady by the name, let me check. Kuna msichana jina lake anaitwa, let me check her name. Her name is mbadilisha jina tena. Okay, the number is no, I don't know. I think it is Cynthia. Cynthia, you are the group admin. Do you have a person by the name Cynthia in this group? Cynthia, is it Cynthia Achieng or Cynthia Atiambo? Do you have a name, somebody by the name Cynthia in this group? Kindly, if you are here, uongee tu. Cynthia in this group.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, now you are the group admin. Now what you are going to do I don't want you to add other admins there because it will be chaos. This is not my first class. I know it is going to be chaos. Don't add any other group admin, and I want you to be very proactive. Be very proactive. Kwa mfano, kuna watu watakuwa wananong'onezana pale, wanafanya biashara zao pale, zinaitwa namna gani? Side hustle zao. That one I don't want to see that. If you see somebody doing that, just give that person a warning, and you do away with that person completely in that group. We also have our side hustles, but we are not putting them there. In fact, we have their sisi ndio admins na hatuweki. So in other words, Cynthia, I want you to be proactive. I want you to share what we call the link for the WhatsApp group so that others can join. Share the link for the WhatsApp group so that others can join. I chose you as the group admin because nilisema hapa mtu ajichague na hakuna mtu alijichagua. So in other words, share that as we wait. Let me post the recording to record. So in other words, today's password, let me share the today's password. If you feel like sharing the password, even on WhatsApp, no problem. Here I have no problem. We have this is the password. I'm sharing it on the what? The chat. Sharing it on the chat. So I've already shared the password. It starts with B7BV91. That is the password for today's class attendance. You can do that. You can take your attendance as we proceed. Apart from there, today's lesson, today's activity. Today's notes have been unread. You can download them. Today's activities are like this. Read any other supplementary reading material outlining nonverbal communication. And then the discussion goes like this. When communicating with friends, how close is too close? How close is too close? Just right or too far? How about with acquaintances? Acquaintances, these are business people, business associates or strangers. How do you tell people when they are too close or too far? So, and then you're told, put that in the discussion forum. So that is your discussion. You're supposed to add that in your discussion forum. Apart from that, there is quiz 3. There is quiz 3 that you're supposed to do. And finally, we have assignment 1. We have assignment 1. Assignment 1 opens today. It is already opened. That assignment is already opened. But for this particular class, it will open exactly. I don't know when it will open, but it opens today. Once it opens, you're supposed to do it within this time frame. Today is date 1. By 8, you must have done that assignment and submitted. By 8, that is next week at 5. Hiyo assignment inafaa kuwa imepewana. Assignment 1. Sisemi uanze kuifanya leo, lakini kama uko na wakati unaweza kuifanya pia. Lakini nimesema ya kwamba hii assignment imefunguliwa leo na itajifunga. It is even written there. It will close exactly at 8 next week at 5. So unless there is a question, me, I will stop there to allow you at least you go and do those activities. Remember the recording, I'll put the recording once the class is over. I can even put it tomorrow. But be rest assured that the recording will be put there for the sake of those people who are not able to join our class or those who joined our class late, including the library session that we had. It is going to be there. So mimi nawachia hapo. Kama kuna swali tafadhali niambiwe. Haijafunguka bado ndio nini? Wajiko. Hiyo ni nini haijafunguka? What is that has not opened? The quiz, the assignment is open. Everything is open. So kindly go and do those activities and let's call it a day. Let's call it a day. Steven Karaoke, what is it? You are raising your hand. What is the problem? Or you are exploring Zoom? Steven hataki kuongea. So we
I have a question.
yes, Wanjiko.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Pardon the password.
The password is shared on the shared word on the chat.
Pardon?
The password is shared on the chat. Mondani share test. I've shared it again. So we can go and do those activities. They will expire exactly at 5. You have enough time. You have like 1 hour, 20 minutes to do all those activities. Tuonane next week.